My friends, welcome to episode 14 of Vibe with Venerables, 1 hour of Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Ming, co founder of Buddhism-dot.net, and your host. We are very happy today to have Venerable Chonyi back on our show. Yay! In the last episode, she wrapped up our series on immeasurable love. And today she's here to open our series on immeasurable compassion. No, she's taking both the ending and the beginning, so she's Alpha and Omega. They both belong to her. So Venerable Chonyi has been affiliated with Sarvasti Abbey right from the beginning. She helped Venerable Chodron establish Sarvasti Abbey. She moved into the abbey herself in 2007, and then she received full ordination in 2011. And so we're so lucky and so happy to have somebody of her seniority to give us her time. So today, Venerable will begin our series on the transformative power of compassion. What does it mean to feel and extend compassion? How does compassion heal us? In the next 3 weeks, Venerable Chonyi, Chodron, and Gyatso will take us on this journey of exploration. And as usual, Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and answer your questions live. As a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded on the YouTube later. And if you are comfortable doing so, my friends, we'd like to invite you to turn on your camera so that Venerable can see your lovely faces on the screen in front of her. With that, Venerable, can we invite you to begin with a prayer?
There we go. Welcome and hello, everyone. And thank you, Ming, again for your kind introduction. You just posed some very serious questions. I hope that that's where I'm going, but we'll see how that goes. Compassion is an enormous topic, and we can talk about it a lot. And we can also theorize it a lot, but how we actually practice it is a whole other thing. So we'll try to look at both of those things. So what I'd like to do is start first with a little bit of just bringing ourselves present to this space with a few moments of meditation together. And as I noted before, we're all sitting in our own room somewhere on the planet, various places. But when we come into the Zoom space, it's like we have our own little chapel together. And so to think about that, and that's why it's so lovely for people to turn their cameras on, to be able to see each other and share in this Dharma space together as we create this chapel in the cosmos somewhere. I don't know how this works, Ming does. But regardless how it works, here we are. We're on Zoom together. So let's imagine ourselves in this little Dharma chapel, sharing together, being together, making a sense of community. So do that by just taking a meditative posture and taking a moment to settle yourself into your chair, your seat, your whatever you're seated on. Coming very present to your body and first through your senses, through the sense connection with where you are in your space. Connection to the chair or the cushion that you're on, your feet flat on the floor if you can. Spine as straight as you can be, given what you're sitting on. Aware of any sound, scent, the temperature, taste in your mouth even. And bring yourself present to this moment. And then simply allowing the external world to continue to rise and fall and do what it does without our engagement. We move our attention inside to our own breath, our own breathing. And you can imagine that even though we are physically thousands of miles apart, we're still breathing the same air on a grand scale. Connecting with one another through our inhale, our exhale, but aware of our own breathing and that movement of air moving through our body. And every living, ordinary being on this planet is also breathing in some way. So we are all breathing together, in, out, interconnected, but focusing here on our own breath. And then think for a moment what brought you into this little Dharma chapel tonight or this morning, depending on where you are. What is it that you are seeking? And whatever that may be, let's expand our motivation. Recalling that as we breathe the same air, we are interconnected with every being. No matter what superficial differences there may appear to be, we each have a common desire for happiness, an innate instinctive movement towards happiness, and a craving to be free of suffering. And in this way, we are exactly the same. And so as we explore the four immeasurable thoughts, and tonight we're moving on to immeasurable compassion, we can try to expand our motivation to include every being within this chapel, within our thoughts, within our aspirations. By cultivating these four immeasurable thoughts, immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, we can wish that for every living being. We can wish for ourselves the capacity to be able to guide every living being to those pure states. And we start by taking refuge together. So visualize the Buddha in the space in front of us, who was compelled by his own great compassion to take all the steps that he took to become a fully awakened being. Imagine ourselves surrounded by living beings as far as we can see, think, imagine. And in this moment, we can practice taking the responsibility to lead them. Lead them in taking refuge together as well. So I'll chant the prayer that we do at Sravasti Abbey for our refuge, and the words will show up in the text. and then we'll recite the four immeasurables right after. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, Ming, shall I just launch?
Yes, engage.
Okay.
I love doing
So,
Captain Picard.
yeah, okay, good. So last time I was here, I had the fortune of actually being the connector, as Ming noted. We were talking about immeasurable love, and now I am leading off on, talking about the next in this series of the four immeasurable thoughts, the immeasurable compassion. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama quotes, he says, immeasurable compassion begins with kindness. And somehow kindness might be a little more within our reach, if we think about it in that way. So that's what I really want to focus on tonight, somewhat. And I want to start with a story. This is from His Holiness. He has beautiful illustrations to talk about the fact that compassion, we have the seeds of compassion innately in us. It arises from empathy. Empathy, which is the recognition and being able to feel, to experience, to care for the feelings of another being. So here's the example he gives. Let's say you're out for a hike in a desert place. I don't know in Asia how many deserts are accessible to you. Here we can get to them, United States, we can get to them and hike pretty well. But a desert, we all know what a desert is. It's dry. And if you don't carry with you enough water, enough food, enough sunscreen, it can be a dangerous place. But they're also very beautiful places to go for walks. So he sets up a scenario where you are out walking in a desert on a pathway, and you see ahead of you, quite a ways, not enough to really recognize the features, but you see someone who looks like an elderly person walking kind of slowly through that desert. But you're far enough behind that you don't make contact with that person. But now that you've seen that, oh, they're kind of an elderly person, you're watching them. You continue to walk, and then in a flash, that person falls to the ground. Now, what do you do? How many people immediately run forward to check on this person who fell to the ground? How many people wait to see if they get up before you run forward? And then how many people just walk away and say, well, not my problem? Probably nobody. Nobody on this list. We instinctively respond to another person's suffering. When we have no other barriers, there's no other concern about are they going to sue me or they're not going to sue me, or whatever barriers we may have. But we instinctively, you hear someone scream in the night, you wake up. You want to know what's going on and you want to help. Yeah, instantly. His Holiness's point in telling this story is that the seeds of compassion lie right there. The seeds of immeasurable compassion lie right there in this innate human response to the perceived suffering of others. And it starts with our empathy. So that empathy leads toward acts of kindness to go help the person up. And that is the way we pay attention to how we deliberately grow our compassion. Makes it sound accessible, doesn't it? I think it is. So I think everybody here on this call is probably Buddhist. And so we have all been hearing either about the four Brahma Viharas or the four immeasurable thoughts. The translation may be different in the Buddhist traditions that we practice in, but we've heard about them all along. They're not new to anybody. So the four immeasurables are the four boundless states of love, compassion, joy, equanimity. And they're really taught widely. They're taught widely. In the Mahayana, they're expanded to be the foundation for how we develop bodhicitta. And Chandrakirti and other great commentators, Indian commentators from the past, really pinpoint compassion as the very seed out of which our bodhicitta, our aspiration to become Buddha in order to benefit all beings, grows. That's where that seed grows and flourishes. So they're immeasurable. Why are they called immeasurable? For a number of reasons. The four immeasurables, first of all, are directed towards these qualities of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. The objects are immeasurable sentient beings. Uncountable sentient beings. That means every single consciousness taking birth anywhere throughout the universe. That's immeasurable love or immeasurable compassion when we have them all included in our view of that feeling. Another way they're called immeasurable is because they are states of meditation that are not in all obscured or hindered by the five hindrances or our afflictions. So it's a very pure state of mind when we have the ultimate immeasurable capacity for it, right? So when we look at compassion, immeasurable compassion, that's our goal, if I can call it that, is to grow from our empathy to this feeling of kindness, to this feeling of compassion, which is defined as a wish to free living beings from suffering. So that wish becomes so great. It is not just the people in our family. It is not just all of our dear friends. It is not just the people in our town, some of which we like and don't like, but it becomes every single being throughout all space. And the Buddha and the Dalai Lama too are very clear, we have the capacity to do this. So while the seeds may be innate, this seed of empathy is innate in our minds. We have to deliberately develop our compassion, obviously. I mean, if you just say right now, every single being, give me a break. What about the guy I don't like? What about the people in power who are driving me crazy right now? What about, what about the person who's been mean to me since I was 4 years old and they have never let up? Yes, that person too. All of them. And so Buddhism is based on reasoning, yes. There are good, solid reasons for that, and we need to connect our reasoning with our heart so that we also feel this quality of compassion. So we talked about love before when we gave that definition, right? So if love is the wish for beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness, and then compassion, as I just said, is the wish for them to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. So there's two things that we need to look at there. What is suffering? What are we wishing them to be free of? And what are the causes? Now, it's easy to see that elderly person, I'm in that category these days, maybe not so elderly, but anyway, that elderly person collapsing in the sand, that's kind of a gross suffering. There are probably places, if we're watching the news at all, every single day we are seeing just incredible, heartbreaking examples of gross suffering. But when the Buddha was talking about this, that's not all he's talking about. When we look at, the basic four truths, and he taught about true sufferings doesn't stop with starvation or pain, physical pain, or mental, emotional hardship even. We're looking at the deeper, one level deeper, where we're looking at the suffering that acknowledges whatever happiness we have lasts that long. It's not to say we don't have some. We have some very pleasant, wonderful, beautiful experiences, no question about it, and they're gone. And we grasp after them, and we suffer. At an even more subtle level, if we kept doing the same thing that we were so attached to, cherries are in season here, they're delicious. If I kept eating cherries thinking happiness was in those cherries, I would soon be a very sick nun. So you can, by doing it again and again and again, if it was really the source of happiness, it would make us blissful. It doesn't, it makes us sick. So that's the second level, the suffering of, or the dukkha of change. And then at the most subtle level, our suffering or our dukkha, our unsatisfactory nature of cyclic existence itself is because we are completely dependent on the karma that we have created and the afflictions in our minds based in ignorance that cause all of it, that cause every little bit of it. And as long as we are in that case, then we are always going to be in a state of unsatisfactoriness. That is the nature of suffering. So when we're talking about compassion here, we're talking about the whole thing. Compassion and its causes. Wishing everyone, ourselves, every single living being, to be free of all three kinds of dukkha. And so, of course, looking at such a subtle kind of approach, it takes deliberate cultivation. But how cool. It gives us a big project. It gives us something to do with our lives. Something really meaningful. And we can see the effects. Is this true? People who've been practicing for a while, you start practicing cultivating loving compassion, you see it in your life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely true.
Yeah, definitely. We wouldn't be showing up here if we didn't have some confidence that this was so. And we also need reinforcement. So that's why we also come together to our little chapel to shore each other up, charge on to cultivate our love and compassion, our equanimity and love and joy as well. His Holiness has a broader definition that I I'm really kind of contemplating this and want to understand it more. I don't speak Tibetan. We have Tibetan scholars here at our monastery, but I'm not one of them. And but he says the Tibetan word nyingje, which is translated as compassion, the simple word compassion, has a much broader definition than just wishing people to be free of suffering and its causes. He says it connotes love, affection, kindness, gentleness, generosity of spirit, warm-heartedness, friendliness, a feeling of connection with others. Doesn't that warm up our textbook definition of compassion? Let me read that list again. Love, affection, kindness, gentleness, generosity of spirit, warm-heartedness, friendliness, and a feeling of connection with others. So His Holiness very famously says, my religion is simple, my religion is kindness. And I've puzzled over that for many years, going, what does he mean by that? But the more I've studied, the more I've read what His Holiness says about it, it's clearer when he says kindness is the root of immeasurable compassion. Now, why is that? So if we look at this basic empathy, which now, thanks to science, we know we have mirror neurons. It's now proven. It's not just some, ancient Buddhist fantasy. Right? We have mirror neurons. That means that we reflect one another's experience. We do as human beings. And I don't know if they've tested for mirror neurons in animals, but how many of your pets are just as sensitive to your emotional needs, or maybe more so than your neighbors? Yeah. So I don't know, I'm just putting out a theory. We respond to each other when we're in tune with each other. And that comes from understanding really that the commonality that we have with everything is this wish to be happy and wish to be free from suffering. If we can meditate on that and start to really accept that about the people we know, the people we love, it's easy to see that, but it's also easy to gloss it over. The people we don't like, the people whose actions we don't like, we begin to understand, oh, they're trying to be happy. Oh, they're just trying not to have any suffering. I can understand that. It doesn't mean I have to condone every action, but I can soften my heart and go, oh, may they be free. May they be free of that suffering. Of course, the next step then would be, and I will cause them to free. But we won't go there tonight. Tonight, we just want to look at what is this compassion and how to develop it. And I think prove to ourselves, this is sort of what I want to go after tonight, to prove to ourselves that this really is so much a part of who we are. Because I believe our modern education has done us a disservice in thinking this idea that our survival instincts are hardwired into us and we should always be on the alert, or we are kind of hardwired to be on the alert all the time and on the defense against any kind of threat. Now that may be true, that we do, I think that's quite true. When we're threatened, we respond with, a wish to repay that harm with harm. That's part of what we have to work on when we're working with love and fortitude. But we can change that. We can soften it. We can mitigate it. It is not something that, if it were as hardwired as some biologists tell us it is, then we can never be Buddha. We could never be liberated. So we need to, with all due respect, we need to set that education part where it belongs. It might be useful for some situations, but to prove to ourselves that kindness is actually, and then the subsequent compassion are of value to us and will bring us happiness. They will be better for us than defense. So another example His Holiness uses is how everyone responds to a smile. Most people, okay, not everybody. But when you smile at people, generally, they smile back. A genuine smile, not a PR smile, as I get accused of sometimes, but a genuine smile. People smile back. It's pleasant. It's nice to be met with a smile, right? That's the beginning of that warmth, familiarity, and also that relationship of seeing how alike we are. And if somebody is frowning at us, we tend to frown back. Yep, up comes the barrier. It's hard to me to frown with a smile, but it's a good practice. It's good to try it. So this acts of kindness, just to say that this heart of kindness is not necessarily action. There are acts of kindness, but beginning to, as we talked about with love, last time I was on here, looking at the kindness in the world, the kindness that we receive that we're so oblivious to, the kindness recognizing that everything we have right now, the Zoom that we're sitting on, the computer we're using, the chair that we're sitting on, whatever your air conditioning is on or whatever, everything that we have, do, and relate with comes from other living beings. We are completely dependent on each other. So reflecting on how it is that just like me, you want to be happy. Just like me, you don't want to suffer. Recognizing that similarity, how close we are actually, no matter what our differences, begins to be the basis upon which our empathy arises, our wish to repay that kindness arises, which is love. And then when we see the suffering of any level, compassion arises as well. So that's the sequence. And I've talked for the whole half hour already, so I don't need to go actually all the way that much further. But I want to go where His Holiness again says, appreciating others' concern is a characteristic of being unable to bear the suffering of others. When we open ourselves to receive the kindness, to recognize our similarity, then we begin to cultivate that wish to free others from their suffering as much as you would for a child, for your own child, as much as we would for our own mother. That's how immeasurable compassion begins to grow. And we start small. Start with the people you live with. Recognizing, oh, you're just like me. You want to be happy. You don't want to suffer. And letting kindness guide our relationships with each other. Start with the people who live in your building. Start with the people who live in your neighborhood. Just practicing this idea, recognizing, oh, you're just like me. You want to be happy. You don't want to suffer. May my recognition of that, my sense of that with you, bring forth a feeling of warmth, kindness, friendliness, all those things Holiness said, and a wish for you to be free of suffering. And that's how our compassion begins to grow. I'm a little bit on a soapbox these days about wanting people to be kindness activists. It's the only way I see of dealing with things in the world. I can't do anything about anything except my own mind. But I have a little sphere of influence. And in that space, bringing kindness and a wish to see that people are happy, well, and so forth, kindness activism, I think, can really help change, not change the world, but help heal the situations we're all in, as well as plant the seeds for our own awakening. So why not? Let's do it. Okay. Questions? Pushback?
Thank you, Venerable. Okay, we now reach our Q&A part of our program. If you have any questions for Venerable, or you just want to share a reflection, or as Venerable said, here to push back on her, yes, you can just use the hand raising function of Zoom, and then I'll have you unmute yourself. Or you can just, if you're too shy to do that, you can just type things on Zoom or get my attention in any other way. So while we're waiting for a question, Venerable, I have a reflection. I mean, it's a joke. While you're talking about the desert, seeing someone fall in the desert, I'm reminded of this joke. The joke is, how do you know you're old? The answer is, you fall. If your friends laugh, you're young. If your friends look concerned, you're old.
That's a good joke.
I know, right?
That's a good joke, and I think it's really true. It's
I
very
know,
accurate.
right?
Yeah.
So while waiting for a question, Venerable, I have one for you. I really like what you said about and you, I know you're quoting His Holiness, that kindness is the beginning of compassion. And my question is, what is kindness the same as loving loving kind metta, in immeasurable love we talked about last week, or
Yeah,
are they
it's very
different?
interesting, this relationship. It's like there's two sides of this of a, can I say two sides of the same coin? Is that quite right? I mean, if the object is the same,
Hmm.
you, for example, to wish you to be happy,
Okay.
to wish you to be happy
Hmm.
would be is genuine love.
Hmm.
To wish you to be free of suffering,
Hmm.
compassion.
Hmm.
Same object, two different two different intents there. And they
Yes, but
are different.
yes, but
They are different.
is the love
And
different from the kindness, or are they the same?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. There's a precision in that, in the way that he talks about the way kindness builds into to compassion, and in the Visuddhimagga, Buddhaghosa talks about love actually needs to precede compassion.
Mm.
So I think it depends on
Mm.
the school, because there's several different ways to develop this, right?
Mm.
But this makes sense to me. We have to be able to care about living beings
Mm.
before we care about whether they have any suffering or not. And seeing beings as lovable, we need to cultivate that love.
Mm.
Then when we have the compassion great enough to wish them to be free of suffering, I think compassion follows. So in the two methods of developing bodhicitta, love comes first, followed by compassion.
Mm.
In the other one, I think they are, there's no predetermined order.
Mm. Mm. Thank you.
Yeah, Christine has a question, yeah.
I understand that they also should be want to be happy and not to suffer, right? And I said, but sometimes people are for themselves to be happy are causing a lot of other people to suffer,
That's right.
and that's kind of hard, I mean, from not just a few people, a lot of people, and I
Yep.
kind of, and it's like, okay, and I kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to even ask. It bothers me, I think
Yeah.
if their search for happiness is make other people suffer, it's not really, it's kind of hard
Right.
to get behind that on that
Yeah.
point. I mean,
Yeah.
I still have compassion for people, especially I learn more about like how they grew up and everything like that. But that part is kind of
Yeah. So there's a line there between having compassion for people who harm others because they think it will make them happy doesn't mean that we condone what they're doing, right? It does not mean that it's okay to, well, what's a less loaded example? I have some politicized ones right off the top of my head. But it's not okay to I don't know, and chain people up and because you think that's fun. Let's just say that. It's kind of weird. But someone whose mind is so out of touch that they would find that as a source of happiness or hope that it's a source of happiness, that's really sad.
It is. Yeah.
It is really sad. And so it helps to hold that person in a light that is softer, that definitely there's no reason not to try to stop the harm of other people. But hating that person, judging that person, and getting ourselves all worked up about it also doesn't help. Whereas expanding some understanding of, wow, how much pain that person may be in, and also what kind of karma are they creating?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's coming after for them? So there is a lot of room, I think, and then we enact change from a place of compassion and not a place of anger. That's the real challenge of being an activist in wanting to affect change in the world, and that is to be able to continue to do it out of compassion and not out of anger, because anger is just jumping onto the same train that the perpetrator's on. It also is it's best for us. We have our minds are a lot happier and we're a lot calmer and healthier if we're not railing against people who are doing harm, because there's a lot of people doing harm in a big, spectacular way. And it's painful. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking. There's also, actually bringing that up, Christine, is also the topic of personal distress. How easy it is to go into personal distress when we're looking at especially situations in the world, but also around us. That is not compassion. Personal distress is your suffering is making me suffer.
Yeah.
Basically, is what that boils down to. Whereas if we have a really strong sense of compassion and understanding of our similarities, and understanding that these people are driven by their afflictions, the power of afflictions and the power of their past karma to drive this too, deepens our refuge, our understanding of what the Buddha is teaching, and it makes our minds stronger when we reflect on that. And then we can really be present with people who are in great pain, really suffering, without getting lost in our own distress. So that's a real value, a side effect value of cultivating real compassion. Louis.
Thank you. Before Louis, I want to add a comment, which is we used to teach this in the secular setting, and we are very careful to always say, just because you let somebody in your heart doesn't mean you don't have a restraining order against them. Right, because you have to protect yourself. I mean, so compassion and loving kindness is not excuse for you to be abused, physically or otherwise. And the reason is because if you let yourself be abused, you're making the other person, you're giving the person bad karma. So you have to protect yourself first, and open your heart to that person.
Yeah, open your heart to them, and yes, but definitely doesn't mean you need to be allowing yourself to be abused. We need compassion with wisdom. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And restraining orders when necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, Louis, please unmute yourself.
Hi there.
Hi.
So my question is related to, and it may be a little bit of a big topic to address in a short time, but I'm very curious about this. I see the relationship between compassion and emptiness, often especially emphasized in the Mahayana tradition, though perhaps it's there in early Buddhism as well. I believe, for example, Bhikkhu Analayo has written on this. In any case, the idea really inspires me, and I guess tantalizes me to really have more of a felt experience of that beyond sort of a concept. So I'm curious if you could speak briefly to this relationship in terms of how they're seen to support and deepen one another in the Mahayana tradition, and then maybe suggest a practice or reflection to explore that more experientially and not merely as a concept.
Yeah, and I would also refer you to these two books by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and my co-authored with my teacher, Venerable Thubten Chödrön, in their Library of Wisdom and Compassion series. Volume 5 is called Courageous Compassion, and Volume 6 is Courageous Compassion, and Volume 5 is something other kind of compassion. But anyway, they go into depth in compassion in all traditions, and they include, especially in the second volume, I think they include how wisdom is used. So it is a huge topic. But in brief, let's see if I can, what can I say that I can speak without. I mean, one of the things that even something as simple to as reflecting on whenever we're doing acts of any of the 6 perfections: generosity, ethical conduct, joyous effort, fortitude, joyous effort, concentration, and then followed with wisdom, to include with this a reflection on how in my act of generosity or the object of my compassion is what we call the circle of 3. The agent, the object, and the action are completely interdependent, and each one is completely empty of inherent existence. So that my compassion then becomes something with the wisdom that recognizes that I, the agent, am empty. The object, you, also empty. The action of giving, or the gift, also empty. The action of giving itself, also empty. So keeping that in mind then infuses our compassion or our practice with, that takes the self out of it. It makes it more pure, if you will. That's not a very technical term, but that's where I went. And then the reason the compassion is so tied to emptiness in the Mahayana is that from the beginning, we want to infuse what we're doing with the wish to become Buddha, with that intent to become Buddha, out of compassion for other beings, so that we don't lose the thread, we don't get carried away by the bliss of meditation or whatever, that it's clear where we're going. Yeah, so it gets infused in that way. So I would read up on some, let's see, there's another one that would be very good. Actually, there's tons of books. But look at those two.
I see someone put in the chat here, thank you. Volume 5, In Praise of Great Compassion.
Yeah.
And Volume 6, Courageous Compassion.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and it also, especially since you sounds like you're coming from the Theravada background, it describes the Theravada approach also, so that you get the early Buddhism as well as Mahayana in those two books. Yeah.
Awesome. It sounds like we should have a series at some point in the future about on this topic, just emptiness, compassion as a topic. Yeah.
Get Venerable Children.
Okay, that's not you. Okay, and with that, next question we have from Vanessa. Vanessa, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. My question would be, understanding that everyone is a reflection of us, how can we perceive that suffering, know that it also is within us, and how can we improve that or change or help instead of getting kind of entangled or suffering with them as well? I don't, it's kind of a contradiction, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, I think it's good to make a distinction that everyone is not exactly a reflection of us. We have that similarity, but we're not a reflection of each other. We all have our own continuity of consciousness. We all have our own karma. We all have our own path. So the tendency to want to get tied up with each other actually becomes a whole lot of sticky attachment, and that's an affliction. Right? So learning to be clear about the fact that this person is suffering, and then developing our own inner strength, our own basis for understanding the nature of samsara itself. That, I think, is the most powerful, for me, the most powerful refuge in being able to be with another person's suffering. And, it takes a lot. We need to really think about, what was the Buddha saying to us? He was saying that we, ordinary beings, because of our afflictions and because of our ignorance, samsara is like this. Things are constantly changing, and yet we cling for them not to be. We cling for external objects that are in the nature of dukkha themselves. We expect them to bring happiness. So we get confused about that. We cling to things to be pure, like the body, for example. We expect that it is pure, when in fact, if we actually look inside, it is not. It's totally foul. And we cling to this sense of self, cling to this sense that you have a self, that I have a self. That's a misperception of how things are. So when we meditate on those really fundamental teachings that come out of the Four Truths, this gives us the foundation to, I think, to build our strength. Oh, this is samsara. This is not some fantasy world where if I just do the right thing, everybody will be happy. I sometimes joke, and I know this is beyond you, but because, or maybe this song, but when I was growing up, the Hair was a big hit, right? When the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, the peace will guide the planet and love will guide the stars. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Somehow I had this vision that love and caring for everybody and was going to change the world, and we were on the verge of this new world where it was going to be. And then a few years ago, in the middle of my Buddhist practice, I thought, that was a song. That was not a prophecy, right? You have been clinging to this view that's just not within the Buddhist worldview. It doesn't match. And letting that go, recognizing that, okay, this is it, and there's no reason to be depressed about this. We also have good qualities. There are also virtuous minds. We have the capacity to grow them infinitely, and go with that realistic view. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you. I think I just want to highlight something Venerable just said, which I found particularly important. So we all, I think, when I say we all, it's me. We have the naive notion that compassion is something we express, and wisdom is what allows the compassion to happen. So it's wisdom first and compassion. And what Venerable just said is also the reverse, right? Compassion. The practice of compassion can be used as something to strengthen wisdom. And you just gave a beautiful example, and this is, I think, it's very important to note.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have a question from Lynn. This could be the last question, depending on how long it takes to answer. Okay, Lynn.
Hi, thank you. I loved your talk. I was just curious, and I think you've been speaking to this, but I just struggle with things feeling personal, that things going on around me are personal, and kind of what comes to my mind as you're talking about this topic. And I don't know if you could speak to that.
Meaning, it's like things that happen locally or in your life with people that you're engaged with or in the larger world. Yeah, so you
The
take things
people that I'm
personally.
engaged with more personally, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels more personal.
It feels personal because it is personal.
It is
And
personal.
you take it personally, and that causes
Mhm.
pain. That is painful. It's hard. It is hard. There is a meditation that my teacher wrote, I think, that I think is just so really, really precious. She calls it "Mind is the source of happiness and pain." It's steps to help us recognize when we look at a situation where we've been hurt, how to analyze it in a way to reframe it. So let me just give you the steps and see if this might work for you. So first of all, you bring to mind a difficult interaction, a different exchange, okay? And then you're sitting on your cushion, you're doing it not in the heat of the moment, that's too hard, but in the aftermath, reflecting then, okay, what was I thinking and feeling while this was going on? Not what they said, not what they did, but inside myself, what was I thinking? What was I feeling? And then what story am I telling myself? What am I telling myself about what was going on here? And really pay attention, I mean, the things that hit our buttons, like I'm not being respected, I'm not, I don't know, respect is one. They're not, they don't think I have any competence. We have all these opinions about what we think they're doing. But to really look at then from this calm place in ourselves, okay, what was I thinking? What was I feeling? And then how did what I tell myself about this influence what I did and what I said? And how did that impact the other person? And then stepping back from that, it's like, okay, was I looking from the lens of just myself? Or was I looking for a big picture that included everybody's side in this story? And then making that analysis is like, well, what would it look like if I were trying to look from their point of view as well as mine? Would my story be different? Would I feel differently about what has just happened? And how can I bring that quality to my interactions with other people? Does that make sense to you, those steps? It's those simple steps, right? It's because generally when we're feeling hurt, it's not that the hurt isn't there, but there's something in there that we're telling ourselves about what that means about me or to me that may or may not be accurate from their point of view, actually. That may not be what their motivation is at all, but it hits a tender place in us. So if we can start to pull apart, how is it, okay, they said something nasty, that's one thing, but I'm responsible for how I respond to that. And, that's easy to say, but we have sensitivities. So to get in there and just try to analyze, what am I telling myself about what this means? What am I thinking their motivation was that is so painful to me? And was that true? Or is it just something I'm so used to thinking about them, or I'm so afraid that they are thinking about me that that's where I went again? So that we start to, and then ease that in ourselves. Yeah. I personally have used that meditation a lot, and it has really, I think, given me a lot more confidence, self-confidence, of like not needing to be the victim, quote, of what I think other people are thinking, saying, and doing. It's painful. It's really painful. I get it. The name of that meditation is Mind is the Source of Happiness and Pain. And you can find it on Thubtenchildren.org if you put it in the search.
And it's also in the chat box right now.
Ah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, shall I end with? I have a small story to share
Yes.
related to what you just said, and I found this helpful. And so, this is actually more of a mental exercise than a story. So, imagine you're walking, and then a branch fell off a tree, and it hit you. I mean, not hard, just it's annoying, ouch. And it's a branch on tree. I just walk off. Then imagine instead of that, somebody hit you with a tree branch with the same intensity. Then you get angry. Like what? Right? And it's the same physical experience, exact same experience. But in one you go like, the other one you go like, dude. And you get really angry. And why? The question is why?
Yeah.
And the question is the meditation.
Yeah, that's a really good because the Shantideva in Guide to a Bodhisattva Way of Life, he talks about one of the antidotes to anger is why not be angry if somebody hits you with a stick? Why are you angry at the person? The stick is what hit you.
That's right.
Separate those things
Damn
out.
sticks. It's going to be news tomorrow. Old man shouts at stick. Damn stick.
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, another wonderful session with Venerable Chonyi. Can we have you lead us in the closing dedication and
Yes,
prayer?
let's do that. So let's think about, just take a half a moment to digest our time together. Think about anything that we particularly want to hold and carry forward. And rejoice in creating virtue together, of coming together to explore this topic of compassion, how to grow it in ourselves, how to recognize it in others. And let whatever feeling or experience of this goodness you can imagine at your heart as like a light, and we radiate it out. Let that light radiate out as we dedicate our merit, our virtue that we created here together to everyone that you feel concerned about, places on the planet you're concerned about, and see if you can extend it to every living being. And then may it too, of course, water the seeds for our own liberation and awakening. So I'll do the little recitation, which I think we have in the chat. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Friends, let's bow to our teacher. Thank you, Venerable, for being with us again. You're wonderful, as usual.
Thank you, thank you. This is a lovely series. I think it's great.
It's because it's a lovely series because you are here. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. This recording will be uploaded onto our YouTube, the Buddhism.net YouTube channel. So subscribe, share with all your friends. And those of you watching on YouTube who missed the opportunity to talk directly to Venerable, please feel free to leave your questions and reflections in the comment section. And if we get enough questions, we can always start a new special video series. And if you're inspired to practice dana or generosity towards Venerable Chonyi, please donate directly to Sarvasti Abbey. And we'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. And because Venerable Chonyi is in charge of donations, you make her extra happy. You get 2 karma points for the price of 1. So don't miss that. Next week, we will have the beloved teacher of Sarvasti Abbey, everybody's beloved teacher, Venerable Thubten children. So don't miss it. Come.
Don't miss that one.
Yes. And thank you, Venerable. And now I'm going to unmute all of you. And please, friends, if you like to, you can unmute yourself and say goodbye to Venerable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Chonyi.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Nice to see some of you. Yeah. Nice to see you all.